Hello, and welcome to my first ever video game review. Thanks for clicking on this video. Today I'm going to be talking about Big Hops, an indie 3D platformer that was released on January 12th, 2026. This game is available to play on Steam, Nintendo Switch, and PlayStation 5 for just $20. I played the game on the Nintendo Switch 2, and all of the footage seen in this video was captured using the Switch's native capture feature.
There's more beyond the forest. I know you want adventure. Find me.
Ugh, I must have fallen out of my hammock. What a weird dream.
In this game, you play as a frog named Hop, who is craving adventure and exploration. After getting separated from his sister while playing in the forest near his house, Hop is lured into a strange world known as the Void by a mysterious character named Dis. Dis reveals that he needs Hop's help but remains vague about the reasons why. Hop learns more about Dis's motives as the story progresses. Not having any other option, Hop follows along reluctantly. He soon meets a quirky raccoon named Cooper, who offers to let Hop use his decommissioned airship to get home. To get the airship back into working order, Hop needs to find 3 parts, with one being found in each of the 3 main areas that he will explore during his adventure. Hop sets out to find these airship parts and help Dis along the way. Following the game's intro in the forest and the brief visit to the Void, Hop travels to 3 expansive areas. These areas are the Red Desert, the Open Ocean, and the Shattered Forest. Hop will also revisit the Void at certain points along his adventure, and for the game's conclusion. The general flow of the game is pretty standard for 3D action-adventure games. In each of the main areas, Hop will meet characters that are facing a conflict, navigate platforming challenges and complete tasks to resolve the conflict, and finally receive one of the airship parts he is looking for during the conflict's conclusion. There are even boss fights at the end of 2 of the 3 worlds, which were pretty fun and an exciting way to wrap up the areas. The couple of side quests sprinkled throughout the areas were simple and entertaining. Personally, I'm someone who enjoys more simple side quests as opposed to long and drawn-out ones, so this was a plus for me. There's a large variety of characters Hop can meet, and all of them have voice acting. This is a great accomplishment for the indie dev team at Luckshot Games, and the voice acting added a great deal to the game's charm.
Now's your chance to get out and see the world. Trust me, Frog. It'll be everything you hoped for. Just be patient.
The game's cel-shaded art style looks great, and Hop's animations are fluid and expressive. The environments are bright and colorful, excluding most of the 3rd area and the Void, which mostly consisted of shades of purple. While I liked the purple aesthetic when used in the Void, I do wish that the 3rd area used more color, as I thought the art style worked better with the vibrant and diverse colors. Hop's animations are fluid and expressive. I appreciated the small touches like the inclusion of birds with accurate bird calls, and the large variety of fish the player can find in the water areas. The game's soundtrack is really well done, full of atmospheric and catchy themes. Here are a couple of the tracks that stood out to me during my playthrough. What really sets Big Hops apart from other 3D platformers is Hop himself. Being a frog, Hop can use his tongue to propel himself, swing over gaps like Spider-Man, and interact with items that are just out of reach. Hop can even use his tongue to pick locks and paint graffiti. Both of these last two mechanics were pretty rare, but it's awesome that the developer took the time to put it into the game. Outside of his tongue-based actions, Hop still has a great variety of moves that one might find in 3D platformers like Mario. Hop can dive in midair, slide on his belly, roll, crouch jump, climb walls, wall run, and more. Mastering the timing of stringing moves together to maximize speed takes practice, but finding that rhythm is very rewarding. Hop's movement has a great sense of momentum, which makes the platforming feel fluid and responsive. Hop controls well, and the game's design uses Hop's moveset to great effect, allowing the player to test out all of the movement options at their disposal. Big Hops is a game that's primarily focused on gameplay, and the 3D platforming and level design is excellent. Some real standouts are the visits Hop makes to the void, where gravity-bending mechanics come into play, similar to those seen in Super Mario Galaxy. One of the ways that the game brings variety to the adventure is through items called Veggies. The game grants Hop access to more and more Veggies as you visit new areas, each having unique uses. Hop will usually find them growing on trees, and you can store them in his backpack to use later on. The Veggies are very fun to experiment with, and many of the challenge rooms allow the player to test their ability to utilize them to the fullest. The vast majority of them are very useful and game-changing. To name a few of the many standouts, there are the green apples, which will stick to any surface that it lands on when thrown, and Hop can pull himself to them to climb cliffs with ease. The cactus fruit, which will create a tightrope from where the fruit lands to another surface directly across from it, and the void berry, which creates a purple area effect on whatever surface it attaches to, and when Hop enters the circular area, the gravity will change to be perpendicular to the surface, allowing Hop to walk on walls. The Veggies give the player many options for tackling the platforming challenges Hop will come across, and it was really fun to experiment with them. Quick side note before moving on, I found out that you can do this funny dance if you tilt from side to side while you're holding onto a green apple on a wall. I just wanted to put this in because I found it very funny.
Yep.
In each of the worlds, there are many collectibles Hop can grab as he explores. The game's main collectibles are dark drips, dark bits, and trinkets, which are all related to each other. Dark drips are Big Hop's equivalent to moons in Super Mario Odyssey. They can be found out in the open, as rewards for completing side quests or making progress with the story, and at the end of challenge rooms. Dark bits are found all over the place, in the overworld, towns, and challenge rooms. Dark bits are easy to collect, usually right out in the open, and collecting them will fill up a meter at the top of the screen. Once full, the dark bits can be formed into one dark drip. Doing this will cause a strange tree stump-shaped capsule to appear at any of the areas where some of the void is spilling over into Hop's world. Opening this capsule with Hop's tongue will give the player an option between two trinkets to add to Hop's collection. This will only happen when forming a dark drip from dark bits, not from collecting dark drips on their own. Trinkets can be put on your backpack to improve or gain new abilities. For example, there are trinkets that give you discounts at shops, display your speed on the screen, display the number of dark drips and dark bits in the area you're in, and allow you to stack items in your backpack to give you more storage space. In the beginning, these capsules will also give Hop the option to add more trinket slots to the backpack, starting out at 2 slots and maxing out at 8. It was a blast getting these and collecting all the trinkets. Some of them are not very useful, but most of them are. Once Hop gets close to collecting all of the available trinkets, some upgraded versions of the trinkets he already has will start showing up in the options from the capsules. When all of the trinkets and upgraded trinkets have been collected, collecting the dark bits and combining them into dark drips will stop making the capsule appear. I reached this point around when I arrived at the third and final area. Although it would be different if I wasn't a completionist, and had not gone out of my way to collect most or all of the dark bits in the areas before that one. The moment trinkets stopped appearing, I did feel much less motivated to go out of my way to collect the dark bits, and 100% completion became less enticing. From the start of Hop's adventure, this has been telling Hop that he needs to collect dark drips in order to complete his mission. I was disappointed to find out, at the end of the game, that this does not bring up the dark drips at all to my memory. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll get into this more when I discuss the game's plot. There are many outfits Hop will receive or can purchase, and at one of the Odette's Outfitters locations in each of the 3 main worlds, Hop can dye them to further customize his appearance. To dye clothes, Hop needs to collect flower petals, which can be collected from flowers, which appear in all 3 worlds. I always had plenty of them, and it was really fun to collect them, even if I didn't really need to. There are many clothing and dye combinations that you can choose from, including a shirt based on Guy Fieri, which was very funny to me. Another type of collectible in Big Hops are the cassette tapes, which are often found in difficult-to-reach places. Each cassette contains the music from the area they're found in. These cassettes can be played on boomboxes found in the shops or on a portable cassette player Hop finds late in the game. This was a very welcome addition, especially given the game's solid soundtrack, although I did have some difficulties getting it to work properly. Around half the times I tried playing the cassettes, the cassette audio would play on top of the existing background track instead of replacing it. This will result in a distracting and often unrecognizable mixture of the 2 tracks. The game has been receiving regular updates, so I'm hopeful that a fix for this bug is on the way, if it has not already been addressed by the time you're watching this video. The most rare type of collectible are the blueprints. There are only 3 in total, 1 for each world, and they are hidden pretty well. On my first playthrough, I only managed to find 1 of them. It was not until I went back after getting to the end of the game to get 100% that I found the other 2. After you find them, blueprints can be brought to Drillson's Depot, which has a location in each of the 3 main worlds. Drillson will create a gadget using the blueprint you give him, and all of them are very useful. Skip to the time on the screen if you would like to avoid being spoiled by what these 3 gadgets are, because I'm about to go into depth on them. 3, 2, 1, okay. The first item you gain access to is the drill from the desert area. The drill can be ridden on land and used as a faster, easier way to travel from one place to another on the ground. This was especially useful when traveling across the desert when I was revisiting the area to collect everything I missed on my first run-through. It reminds me a lot of the airball Aang rides on in Avatar, and looks like a big Beyblade, so I'm a big fan of it. The sea skimmer, which you can find in the ocean area, is extremely useful for traveling underwater. The gadget not only allows you to move much quicker underwater and with greater maneuverability, but Hop also does not need to worry about running out of air while using it. The third and final gadget, found towards the end of the last area, is the railgun. This device is absolutely incredible. It was very smart of the devs to give you this so close to the end, because it absolutely breaks the game. The gadget will create a rail from wherever you fire it to wherever it's pointing, as long as it's within range. The range on the device is massive, and Hop can traverse huge gaps with ease using it. Not only that, Hop can pretty much travel anywhere he wants with this thing. The rails can be made as steep as you would like, and while you might think at first that this would not be useful, you'd be wrong, because if you repeatedly jump off and back on the rail, you can ascend it regardless of how steep it is. This means that you can go from the bottom of a cliff to the very top with ease using this device. This was extremely useful for revisiting areas that I'd already made my way through to avoid going through all of the platforming again. While this rail climbing was likely unintentional, it was so much fun to mess around with. To show you just how game-breaking this gadget is, look at the skip that you can do in Revel Cove. It was so much fun using this gadget and seeing how much I could do with it. I love when game devs are not afraid to make things overpowered in single-player games and just embrace it. This was definitely my favorite of the gadgets, and the one I used most frequently during the post-game. Throughout the game, there are cute bugs you can find crawling or flying around. Hop can grab them with his tongue and either eat them or put them in his bag. When Hop eats a bug, he gains a temporary additional stamina wheel that will take over when your usual wheel runs out. You mostly use your stamina to climb walls, and this additional stamina wheel allows you to climb farther. When Hop is underwater, his stamina wheel turns into his breath meter, meaning eating bugs will also allow Hop to stay underwater for longer. When he finds a new one, Hop takes a second to inspect the bug and identify it. This was such a great addition to the game, and it just oozes charm. Getting the chance to view and rotate these bug models was really fun. There's a bug collector named Bugsy who appears in all of the 3 main worlds. By speaking with Bugsy, Hop will unlock rewards based on the number of bugs he has discovered. When visiting Bugsy's conservatory, Hop can also view all of the bugs he has discovered, giving the player another opportunity to appreciate the time that went into the bug designs. The plot of Big Hops is serviceable, but definitely one of the game's weaknesses. The game tries to balance 2 storylines, Hop's quest to find airship parts and get home to his mom and sister, and Dis's confusing mission with the dark drips in the void. Hop's journey home was a solid plot device, but the motivation behind Dis's mission was not explained very well and lacked weight. Dis explains that the void is a realm of endless energy that holds reality together. He says that something cracked and reality has started to crumble, spreading the dark drips and dark bits around the world. Dis needs Hop to collect the dark drips in order to fix the void and prevent reality from ending. Dis provides this explanation in small doses in between worlds. Having the storyline only be relevant and developed during these transitions and at the very end of the game made it feel very inconsequential. I was disappointed to find out that collecting the dark drips does not seem to make a difference on the ending. In the final sequence of the game, a shrine in the void tells Hop to revisit areas from all 3 worlds to collect light drips. There is no explanation given on what the light drips are or why we need to collect them. While I wish that the end of the game was tied in better with the dark drips, this part is very fun. It introduces these star-shaped items that Hop can collect and will allow him to perform mid-air jumps for each one you have trailing behind you. It's a shame that this mechanic was reserved for the very end of the game, and that it did not appear in any challenge rooms or in the overworld as a fruit somehow. I do need to mention that the music that plays during this part is awesome. After collecting the light drips and going back to the shrine, the game pretty much just ends. There is a short conversation with Dis, and then the credits roll. The ending was pretty underwhelming, and it really felt like the story rushed to its conclusion. Towards the end of the story, Dis explains that he was created when reality began to crack, and that he will cease to exist when the void issue is resolved. When I revisited the game to get 100% completion after finishing the story, the areas where Dis used to appear in the overworld have been replaced with a frog statue from the beginning of the game. Collecting all of the dark drips and returning to the shrine in the void causes Dis to suddenly reappear and start showing up again outside the void. This is considered the true ending and serves to reward the player for completing the game. To my knowledge, the player just needs to collect all of the dark drips in the game to get this ending, and does not need to collect all of the dark bits. I do wish I knew this going into the game, because going through the trouble of revisiting every single area of the game to find the ones that I was missing was very time consuming. For most of the game, I had the completionist badge equipped, which shows how many dark bits and dark drips there are in an area, and how many you have already collected. While it's helped a lot, there's currently no way for the player to tell which areas they missed items in, aside from traveling back to every single area and checking what the completionist badge tells you when you get there. This includes revisiting the challenge rooms, which was especially painful. I do wish that the game had a map or some other way to keep track of how the areas and the worlds are connected, as that would have made backtracking less frustrating. I was also disappointed to find that there were no fast travel options. I understand having this be the case during the main story, but having these available in the post-game is another thing that would have made 100% completion less cumbersome. I'm pretty sure the only completion reward is the true ending, so after getting to 99% completion and spending much too long revisiting a bunch of areas, I gave up on getting 100%.
Hooray! You go on ahead, Hop. I'll catch up. You! Yeah!
Big House is a gem of a 3D platformer, with innovative and exciting gameplay and a vibrant art style. The gameplay is well balanced and engaging, with new mechanics being introduced regularly and giving the player the freedom to tackle platforming challenges in a variety of ways. The game's trinket system provided the game with a good sense of progression and gives the player a reason to seek out one of the main collectibles of the game. However, I did get the sense that the game fizzles out a little towards the end, when the rewards run out for collecting items and the game's plot does not hold enough weight to keep the player invested. I think the game should have been a little more condensed to keep the excitement and intrigue flowing throughout the entire playthrough. While it may sound like I'm focusing too much on the negatives, I really did love this game, and my complaints are mostly nitpicks. I absolutely recommend you give Big Hops a try. I would recommend though that you do not go into the game with a goal of getting 100% completion, and just enjoy the atmosphere and gameplay. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would give Big Hops an 8. It's an excellent game that has a little room for improvement for sure, but if you can get past the minor nitpicks I had, you'll have a great time. Thank you very much for watching my review. I've been working on this review since the game came out, so about 2 months now, and I really appreciate that you took the time out of your day to give it a watch. Please let me know in the comments below if you've played Big Hops or are planning to try it out. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. This has been Benjadude Reviews.